Hi students, good morning. Welcome back to physics classes. And yesterday, during the last class, we have talked about Gauss theorem, and we have used this Gauss theorem for finding electric field intensity due to some special kind of charge distributions. Yesterday, we have seen a linear charge distribution as well as surface charge distribution. And for surface charge distribution, we got the final expression as the electric field intensity E is equal to sigma by 2 epsilon 0. I think you are remembering that. So please revise all those contents from your textbook. You can get the same topic in different kinds of textbooks. You can refer to any kind of textbook, no problem. But learn the concepts thoroughly according to our syllabus. I think all of you have got the syllabus book with you. So you refer to the syllabus, you listen to the classes, and you can find all those contents I am explaining here are according to our syllabus only. So you check with your syllabus many times. Always I am telling you the same. You have to learn according to the syllabus. Whichever textbook you can refer, no problem. But the contents you have to learn according to the syllabus only. So question paper will come according to the syllabus only. They are not asking from which textbook you are learned. But no problem. Any book you can refer. But learn the concept thoroughly and perfectly. Okay. So we can continue with the Gauss theorem, applications of Gauss theorem, and we are starting with where we have stopped with the last class, which means surface charge distribution and electric field intensity due to surface charge distribution. And we can just recollect the electric field intensity of a surface charge distribution, and we can start further. Okay, so this is the last content we have seen in the last class. That means we are having a infinitely thin sheet of charges, and the electric field intensity is equal to sigma by 2 epsilon 0. The method I think you are remembering. We are calculating the flux, electric flux, in two different methods. One according to the definition, that is flux E is equal to phi E is equal to closed integral E dot dA or ds, and flux phi E is equal to Q by epsilon 0 according to the Gauss theorem. So that is the method of finding electric field intensity using Gauss theorem. So this is the electric field intensity of an infinitely thin sheet of charge, that is E is equal to sigma by 2 epsilon 0. Now I show you an interesting diagram. See, in this diagram you can see two sheets, 1 and 2. And look at the picture very carefully, diagram very carefully. First plate is provided with the positive charge, and the second plate is provided with negative charge. First plate is provided with positive charge, and the second is provided with negative charge. So as we have already said, from a positively charged plate, electric field is diverging out. So on either side of this first plate, you can see E1. What is E1? E1 is the electric field intensity due to that positively charged plate, which is denoted as 1. So E1 is diverging out from the first plate. Okay, so now you see the second plate, which is negatively charged. So from a negatively charged electric field or electric field lines are not diverging out, but we know electric field or electric field lines are converging into that negative plate. So here you can see the electric field intensity due to that negatively charged plate E2 is converging into that negative plate. Is it okay? So we can see two plates which are providing electric field intensities E1 and E2, and they are marked in that paper or in the figure diagram with the arrow marks. That arrow marks represents the direction in which those electric fields are acting. Okay. Now you can see three different regions are there. In the first region, E1 and E2 are acting in opposite directions. That arrow marks are representing the direction. So E1 and E2 are acting in the opposite directions. See, in the third region also, E1 and E2 are acting in the opposite directions. But in the middle of these two plates, that is the second region, where E1 and E2 are acting in the same direction. Analyze it. In the first region, E1 and E2 are acting in the opposite directions. In the third region, E1 and E2 are acting in the opposite directions. And in second region, that is in between the two plates, both the electric fields are acting in the same direction. See, in all these three cases, all these three regions, what is the net electric field? We can make use our superposition principle so as to find the net electric field. What is superposition principle? The total electric field intensity is the vector sum of individual electric fields prevailing there. So E1 and E2 are prevailing in the first region, but they are acting in the opposite direction. In superposition principle, it is clearly said that you have to take the vector sum. So when you are taking E1 and E2, according to E1, E2 is negative. So we can say that the net electric field in the first region is E1 minus E2. Similarly, in the third region also, it is E1 minus E2. But in the second region, since both are acting in the same direction, that is E1 plus E2. Are you getting? So in the first region, it is E1 minus E2. In the third region also, it is E1 minus E2. And the second region, it is E1 plus E2. Okay. Now come to this diagram. Here also the same is, you can see, yellow plate is there which is positively charged, and a blue plate is there which is negatively charged. And again, in the first region A, E1 and E2 are acting in the opposite directions. In the third region C, E1 and E2 are acting in the opposite directions. But in the second region, that is in between C, E1 and E2 are acting in the same direction. The reason just now we have discussed, and you know that why E1 and E2 are acting the same direction during the second plate, second region. Okay, so here at point A, the net electric field will be E1 minus E2. In the first region, that will be E1 minus E2. But one thing you have to consider there, both the plates are having the same surface charge density. Both the plates are having the same surface charge density. So according to the Gauss theorem, due to the first plate which is positively charged, E1 is the electric field intensity, and it is given by an expression sigma by 2 epsilon 0 that we have already discussed and revised them now. So E1 is equal to sigma by 2 epsilon 0, which is acting towards the left, and due to negatively charged plate, the electric field intensity is equal to sigma by 2 epsilon 0 itself, but it is acting towards the right direction. So what happens in the region A, first region, the total electric field intensity will be E1 minus E2, E1 minus E2, E1 minus E2, but E1 and E2 are having the same magnitude, so the net electric field will become 0. Are you getting? Both the plates are having the same charge density, surface charge density. So, electric field intensity is produced by both the plates are same and is equal to sigma by 2 epsilon 0. In the first region A, E1 and E2 are acting in the opposite direction with the same magnitude. So, the net electric field according to the superposition principle, that will come 0. Similar arguments you can go for the third region C also, which means in the third region also E1 and E2 are acting in the opposite directions. They are acting in the opposite directions with the same magnitude. If they are acting with the same magnitude in the opposite direction, the vector sum will be 0. So in the first region and third region A and C, there should be no electric field intensities. Is it clear? When you consider the second region where E1 and E2 are acting in the same direction with the same magnitude, the effective intensity will be E1 plus E2, which means sigma by 2 epsilon 0 plus sigma by 2 epsilon 0, which will become 2 sigma by 2 epsilon 0, which is equal to sigma by epsilon 0. Are you getting? So, when we are keeping two equally and oppositely charged conducting plates close to each other, there is no electric field intensity on either side of both the plates. But electric field intensity will be available only between these two plates. Electric field intensity will be available only between these two plates, and that is equal to sigma by epsilon 0. You keep this description in your mind as a special case mentioned here, but it is an important result and this will be used further. In another situation, we will use the same. At that time, you can recollect it. Okay, so you keep in your mind, when two equal and oppositely charged conducting plates, are kept close to each other, electric field intensity will be prevailing in between the plates only. On either side of the plates there is no electric field intensity. Electric field intensity will be available in between the plates only, and its value will be sigma by epsilon 0, where sigma is the surface charge density. Is it clear? So that is a special case of surface charge distribution and electric field intensity due to surface charge distribution. Okay, so that is electric field intensity due to a surface charge distribution. So we have seen the electric field intensity due to linear charge distribution and electric field intensity due to surface charge distribution. Now we can go for electric field intensity due to spherical shell. Electric field intensity due to spherical shell. So when you consider a spherical shell, that spherical shell is having a geometry of a three-dimensional geometry. So it refers to volume charge distribution. But the case that we are going to discuss here is not actually a volume charge distribution. Here we are discussing electric field intensity due to a thin conducting shell. A thin conducting shell means its interior part is empty, just like a ball. That means it has only its circumference, but inside nothing is there. Means matter is not there. In the case of no conducting matter is there, only air is present inside. So when you consider the charge on that conducting shell, charge resides only over its surface. So again it refers back to the surface charge density, but the geometry is a volumetric geometry. That means a three-dimensional geometry with surface charge distribution. Even though it's a three-dimensional geometry, but the charge is distributed only over the surface of that sphere. So automatically it refers back to a two-dimensional charge distribution. So we consider a spherical thin shell with the charge residing only over its surface. And due to this charged thin conducting shell, what will be the electric field intensity? What will be the electric field intensity? That we are going to find out. So again, for finding the electric field intensity due to such a continuous charge distribution, we require Gauss theorem. So to apply Gauss theorem, what is the basic requirement? What is the basic requirement? Yes, the basic requirement is, the first and foremost basic requirement is a Gaussian surface. Since our charged species is a sphere, so the Gaussian surface should also have the same spherical symmetry. Suppose our charged species is having radius capital R. That means we are having a thin conducting shell of radius capital R. Charge is residing over its surface. So you have to consider a Gaussian surface of radius small r. Are you getting? Then you can apply Gauss theorem over that Gaussian surface so as to find out the electric field intensity due to that conducting thin shell. Are you ready? Okay, come. Okay, see the diagram where you are having a conducting shell of radius capital R here. Can you see? And that is our charged spherical shell. See, the charged spherical shell with the surface charge density sigma, with the surface charge density sigma. And we can have the total charge on the sphere is Q, since it is a spherical body, and the total charge residing over its surface is Q. So Q is a total charge on the spherical shell, and surrounding that a dotted sphere you can see, and it's a two-dimensional figure, so you can see it as a circle, not as a sphere, but remember it is a spherical body. So you are having another spherical body with a radius small r. Okay, that is your Gaussian surface. That is your Gaussian surface. So here we are discussing the case in two different cases, which means in the first case the radius small r is greater than capital R. Radius small r is, see, the point P where the electric field intensity to be find out, and that point P lies at a distance small r. And to keep that required point P on the circumference of the Gaussian surface, we are considering the Gaussian Gaussian sphere with Radius r. Are you getting that? Then what will happen? The required point will lie over the circumference of our Gaussian surface. Okay. Now this point P is outside our conducting thin shell. Our required point is outside the shell, that is small r is greater than capital R. Is it clear? Okay. Then on the surface surrounding that point P, you are considering a small area ds. We have to find out the electric field intensity at the point P. What to do? As usual, you find out the flux using the definition and flux using Gauss theorem. So first of all, we can find out the electric flux delta phi through the small area ds using the definition. So delta phi is equal to E into delta E dot delta S. Both are vectors. Then since delta is also along the normal to the surface, E and ds, many times I told you yesterday also, E and ds are two vectors which are parallel to each other. That kind of surface only we are considering for finding the electric flux. So delta phi will become E into ds. Therefore, the total electric flux phi is equal to surface integral E ds. That means E into surface integral ds. E into surface integral ds. So surface integral ds will become, what is ds? What is ds? What we have taken as ds? Ds we have chosen as a small area over the surface of Gaussian sphere. Delta S or ds is the small area over the surface of Gaussian sphere. When you are integrating over the surface, when you are integrating ds over the surface, what you will get? You will get the total surface area. You will get the total surface area of the Gaussian sphere. So what is the area of a sphere? Area of the sphere, you know, that is 4 pi r square, where r is the radius. So which r you have to use here, capital R or small r? Remember, always you have to keep small r, since small r is the radius of Gaussian sphere. When you are considering the flux, you are calculating the flux through the Gaussian surface. So you have to choose the Gaussian surface area. Here it is Gaussian sphere. So you have to calculate the Gaussian spherical area whose radius is small r. So delta S will become 4 pi r square. So phi will become E into 4 pi r square. That is equation number 1. Phi is equal to E into 4 pi r square. So we have find out the flux using conventional formula. Then, since the charge enclosed by the Gaussian surface is Q, according to the Gauss's theorem, phi is equal to Q by epsilon 0. I already told you, Q is the total charge on the sphere. Which sphere? Conducting shell. And we are considering the Gaussian surface outside the conducting shell. So what will happen? The total conducting shell is now inside our Gaussian surface. Are you getting that? When you are coming back to the diagram, see, the total sphere is now inside the Gaussian sphere. So what will be the charge enclosed by the Gaussian sphere? The charge enclosed by the Gaussian sphere is the total charge on the conducting thin shell. So what will happen? According to the Gauss theorem equation, phi is equal to Q by epsilon 0, where Q is the total charge on the conducting shell. So you got two equations for phi, equation 1 and equation 2, and you can compare equation 1 and 2. So when you are comparing equation 1 and 2, you are getting E into 4 pi r square is equal to Q by epsilon 0, and E is equal to 1 by 4 pi epsilon 0 into Q by r square. Are you remembering this equation? E is equal to 1 by 4 pi epsilon 0 Q by r square. Yes, that is the equation for electric field intensity due to a point charge. Electric field intensity due to a point charge. Now the situation comes to when you consider a thin shell, when you are considering a point outside that shell, that thin shell can be considered as a point charge with the total charge on the sphere. Is it? Because the equation says that, means when you are considering that spherical shell, the at a point outside the shell, the electric field intensity is very similar to the electric field intensity due to a point charge at the same distance. So if the point is outside the shell, you can consider that shell as a point charge, and the electric field intensity is given by 1 by 4 pi epsilon 0 q by r square. So that is the first case of a thin shell when the required point is lying outside the conducting shell. At that sense, you can consider that shell as a point charge, and the equation will become 1 by 4 pi epsilon 0 q by r square, where q is the total charge on the sphere and r is the distance at which we are finding the electric field intensity. Now we can go for the second case. What is the second case? The second case is when r is less than capital R. Small r is less than capital R. Situation describes here when the point P lies inside the spherical shell. You think what happens when small r is less than capital R? Then our Gaussian surface derives inside the conducting shell. So the situation explains here. In such a case, the Gaussian surface encloses, or the Gaussian surface describes inside the conducting shell. I already told you it is a thin shell, and the charges are residing only over its surface. Charges are residing only over its surface. So what will happen? When you are describing a Gaussian surface inside the shell there is no charge. So the charge enclosed by the Gaussian surface will become 0. Charge enclosed by the Gaussian surface will become 0. If the charge enclosed by the Gaussian surface will become 0, what happens there? According to the Gauss theorem, phi is equal to q by epsilon 0, where q is the charge enclosed by the Gaussian surface. Are you getting me? Phi is equal to q by epsilon 0, where q is the charge enclosed by the Gaussian surface. In this case, when small r is less than capital R, Gaussian surface derives inside the thin shell. Since inside the thin shell there is no charge, the charge enclosed by the Gaussian surface will become 0. So phi is equal to q by epsilon 0 will become 0 according to Gauss theorem. So if you are comparing 1 and 2, second equation automatically comes to 0. So E into 4 pi r square will become 0, which means E is equal to 0 when small r is less than capital R. Small r is less than capital R. What it means? Inside the conducting shell, there is no electric field intensity. Inside the conducting shell, the electric field intensity will become 0. There is no electric field intensity inside the conducting shell. Is it clear? So when you consider a conducting thin shell, if you consider a point outside the shell, you are having an electric field intensity which is given by 1 by 4 pi epsilon 0 q by r square, and when you are considering a point inside the shell, the electric field intensity will become 0. That is an important result in electrostatics, which means inside a conducting shell or inside a conducting cavity, there is no electric field intensity. If there is no electric field intensity, means there is no electric field. Inside the conducting shell, there is no electric field. And this concept is known as electrostatic shielding. That concept is known as electrostatic shielding. So electrostatic shielding is known as the concept which describes inside a conducting cavity there is no electric field or there is no electric field intensity. And I will give you an example of this electrostatic shielding. Electrostatic shielding. Suppose at the rainy season, it's a lightning and thundering. So during the time of lightning, we are afraid of getting shock. So it is advised that if you are inside a car, if you are inside the car, you are safe from this lightning threat. That means if you are inside the car, you will not get shocked by lightning and thunder. You know what is the reason? The reason is the same, electrostatic shielding. How it works? The car is made up of, the body of the car is made up of metal. So inside the car, you can consider that is a metallic cavity. Metallic cavity. So inside the metallic cavity, there is no chance for getting electric field or electric field intensity. So when an electric field is passing through your body, then only you are getting shock. So inside the shell or inside the car, electric field is zero, electric field is absent. So you are free from, or you will be safe from this lightning threat. So it is advised inside a vehicle during the time of lightning and thundering, so as to save from the terror of lightning. But remember, motorbike is also a vehicle, but don't be on a motorcycle or bike so as to be free from lightning and thundering. And it will be inside only a metallic cavity. And suppose you are sitting inside the car, and for an attitude you are keeping your hands outside the windows, and you are keeping like the hands like this. At that time also you are not safe from the thundering. If you are fully inside the cavity, then only you are free from lightning and thundering, due to the same concept of electrostatic shielding. Okay, so that is a special case of electrostatic shielding, and that is the special case of electric field intensity due to a thin conducting shell. Okay, now we can summarize the applications of Gauss theorem here. So electric field due to a linear charge that we have discussed first. Remember the diagram once again. Linear charge distribution is there. Surrounding that, we are considering a cylindrical Gaussian surface, and the method in all the three cases are same. What is the method? You are finding the electric flux using the definition, that is phi is equal to closed integral E dot dA or ds, whatever may be, and you are finding the flux using the Gauss theorem, that is Q divided by epsilon 0. So in the first case, it's a linear charge distribution, and we have got the electric field intensity is 1 by 2 pi epsilon 0 lambda by r, where lambda is the linear charge distribution and r is the distance. There you can find only one variable term is there, r. As r increases, the electric field intensity decreases. Second case is a thin shell. We are having an infinitely thin shell, and the Gaussian surface that there you have chosen is also a cylinder. But the way you have chosen the cylinder, you have to remember always, and which surface area we are considering in both the cases, first and second cases. Since in both the cases we are considering the Gaussian surface in the form of a cylinder, but the area which is counted for calculating the flux is different in both the cases, that you separately remember. In the first case, it's a curved surface area. In the second case, it's only two flat surfaces. And there, the electric field intensity you are getting as sigma by 2 epsilon 0 is equal to sigma by 2 epsilon 0, where sigma is the surface charge density and it is independent of the distance. That is an important result. And we have seen, I didn't mention here, in that case, a special case we have seen when two equal and oppositely charged conducting plates are kept close to each other. When two equal and oppositely charged plates are kept close to each other, we got on either side of those plates there are no electric field intensities are zero, since in both the regions electric fields are acting with the same magnitude but in opposite directions, but between the plates both the electric fields are acting along the same direction. So inside the plate only, between the plates only, you are having the field intensity, that is sigma by 2 epsilon 0 plus sigma by 2 epsilon 0, which is equal to sigma by epsilon 0. That is the second case. And the third case, it is due to uniformly charged thin spherical shell. So there we are finding two different cases. One is outside and the one is inside. On the outside, the equation is 1 by 4 pi epsilon 0 q by r square, where r is the radius of Gaussian sphere, which is the required distance from the shell, and inside the shell there is no electric field, and that leads to electrostatic shielding. One more case we can argue there, or we can assess there, when small r equal to capital R. Small r is equal to capital R. When small r is equal to capital R, where will be the required point? Yes, the required point will be on the surface of the sphere itself. So what changes will be there in that equation? In the first equation, that is E is equal to 1 by 4 pi epsilon 0 q by r square, that small r you have to replace by capital R. So the equation will become 1 by 4 pi epsilon 0 q by capital R square. That is the electric field intensity on the surface. So we can say that outside the shell and on the surface electric field intensity is available. That is 1 by 4 pi epsilon 0 q by small r square outside, 1 by 4 pi epsilon 0 q by capital R square on the surface. Okay, so that are the three applications of Gauss's theorem. That are the three applications of Gauss theorem. And the first case, electric field intensity due to linear charge distribution, electric field intensity due to surface charge distribution, electric field intensity due to thin conducting shell. It is not a volume charge distribution, even though the symmetry is volumetric, but the charge distribution is surface. Okay, so we have seen Gauss theorem, and we have used this Gauss theorem for finding electric field intensity due to continuous charge distributions. So we can summarize the whole chapter. Gauss theorem says the electric flux through any closed surface is 1 by epsilon 0 times the charge enclosed by the closed surface. 1 by epsilon 0 times the net charge enclosed by the closed surface. And using this Gauss theorem, or this Gauss theorem is used for finding electric field intensity due to certain continuous charge distribution. And with the chapter we have started with describing what are the different types of continuous charge distributions, and there are three types of continuous charge distributions: linear charge distribution, surface charge distribution, and volume charge distribution. Linear charge distribution, in linear charge distribution we can define the charge acting per unit length, lambda, that is a linear charge density. In surface charge density, sigma, that is a charge acting per unit surface area, and in volume charge density, rho, that is a charge per unit volume. And we have used this Gauss theorem for finding the electric field intensity due to the linear charge distribution, surface charge distribution, and field intensity due to a thin shell. So that is the chapter Gauss theorem. Okay, I think all of you can arrange a textbook for you, or in some ebooks are also available. You can refer, I already told you, you can refer to any books, or you can refer all these topics in any kind of textbooks, no problem. But when you refer to our, our described textbook, and we are using in the school the Newton textbook we are using, and I found that most of the problems are coming from those textbook only. Still, during this kind of online classes or online teaching, I didn't start with the numericals. But I think if the concepts are clear with you, you can refer to some numerical problems also, and these problems you can find in your um, net. You can find out so many problems. Some sites are there where from where you can find out some problems, and I will arrange some problems for you. I will solve some problems and explain to you. We have completed the first, we didn't complete the first, but two chapters according to the textbooks, two chapters we have already gone through. But according to my concept, electrostatic is not complete yet, and we are still in the chapter electrostatics, and we have used some, or we have discussed some topics just like Gauss theorem and Coulomb's law, and we can find out the force between two charges and the electric field intensity. You can find out the electric field intensity some due to some charge systems, and now continuous charge distributions are that Gauss theorem is there. So problems related to these topics we have to discuss. So I think first of all you learn all these topics that we have discussed here. Then only if you are coming to the problem solving, it will be easy for you. So I advise all of you to refer to some books and make your own notes, or the notes I can. I shown you through slides. You can make use, no problem, and make your own notes now these days. And when we are coming to the classes, I will give you the detailed notes. So first of all you prepare the notes and learn all these topics, and when we meet the next time, I will give you some examples, numerical examples, and through the slides also, through the slides I will show you, or I will give you some examples for your practice. Using that examples, or seeing or analyzing that examples, already solved examples I will give, and see that solved examples. Using that concept that we have used there in the solved examples, you can further go to that unsolved practice problems that I am going to give you. So all of you have to take it in the serious sense. The time is now the situation is like this only. So we are not sure when we will meet in person. Anyhow, all you keep safe, be at home only, be safe, and enjoy your time, and spend some time for your revision also. You go through all these matters well, and all the classes you attend, and keep safe and be safe, and we will meet again. Bye.